Good morning, boys and girls. Welcome to language lesson 153. Today, we are going to begin with our oral language exercises. We're going to continue with a review of our subject and verb agreement. We're going to then introduce the new concept, do our thinking skills exercises, and you do have homework tonight, so pay attention and be sure to refer to that homework note of yours. Okay, simply repeat after me once I say the sentence, please. A shark just swam by here. Has one ever swum by before? He said one had swum by last month. Has he begun to paint his house? I thought he had begun last week. He began 2 days ago. He proved that he could do the job. I could not have proved it without your help. Who finally proved him guilty? He certainly proved equal to the task. Very good. Now, let's move on to our review. So in previous lessons, we went over a number of things. So one being the fact that subjects and verbs must agree. So even when there's a prepositional phrase in the sentence, you have to think to yourself that an object in this particular case is never the subject. Also, verbs can either be singular or plural. Now, we learned that most singular verbs end in a particular letter. Do you remember what that letter is? Yes, an S. Very good. A singular subject must have a singular verb, and a plural subject must have a plural verb. We did also learn that the pronoun you always takes a plural verb when it's used in a sentence. Very good. So go ahead and be sure you review these rules. We are going to now move forward and practice some of them. So let's take a look at helping verbs. We know that some helping verbs are either singular or plural. Singular helping verbs include is, was, has, and does. Notice that all of them end in an S in this case. There is an exception, which is am. And then looking at the plural helping verbs, we have are, were, have, and do. So retain those to memory so that it will be helpful in the future. Okay, so here, what I'd like for you to do is respond with either have or has, or do or does, whichever one I ask, after each singular or plural noun that you hear. So I'm going to begin with apples. And that's obvious that it's plural, it ends with an S. Would you say apples has or apples have? Yes, you would say apples have because you recognize that a plural subject must be accompanied by a plural verb. What about carpet? Would you say carpet has or carpet have? Carpet has. Very good. You know that those singular verbs end with an S, so that's a huge clue. Let's move on to house. Is that singular or plural? It is singular. So house has or house have? Think before you speak. Yes, house has. Very good. Okay, for man, would you say man do or man does? Man does. Very good. Parks. Parks do or parks does? Parks do. Very good. We have or we has? We have. Excellent. And finally, he. He has or he have? He has. Okay. If I threw in you, what would you say? You would say, well, the pronoun you must always be accompanied by a plural verb. So you would say, you have. Very good. Okay, so if you refer back to your arithmetic days in lower elementary, you would recall that 1 plus 1 equals 2. That's pretty basic. That's as basic as you can get, actually. So I want you to consider that formula in the English language. If 1 plus 1 equals 2, here that we're talking about singular and plural verbs, I want you to consider the fact that one singular verb, or excuse me, one singular subject plus another singular subject will need a plural verb. Okay, so we are going to move into what we refer to as compound subjects in sentences. You should be familiar with that. However, I want you to know that compound subjects joined with the conjunction and usually take a plural verb when they're used in a sentence. And we're going to go over a number of examples together, some of which you can see already. So if I were to say the sentence, language and spelling are fun, you would think to yourself, well, language is a singular subject, and spelling in and of itself is a singular subject. However, the conjunction and joins the two. So we have language and spelling. Therefore, it becomes plural and needs a plural verb to accompany it. Why you have are. So language and spelling are fun. Now, for the next sentence, I want you to choose the appropriate verb. The boy and girl has or have a dog. Remember that because it is a compound subject, it's plural. So you would say the boy and girl has a dog. Have a dog, excuse me, have a dog. Very good. Mr. Stevens and his family have gone on vacation. You notice there that it's Mr. Stevens and his family. So because it's plural, you have to use have instead of has in that particular case. And finally, a math book and a sweater, another compound subject, were left on the bus. So you notice that were, a plural verb, was used in that particular case. Excellent. We're going to be doing further practice in that. So what I'd like for you to do is turn to page 235. And I would like for you to look at the look closely section at the very top. You'll notice that those are the examples we just did. And it reviews the facts that compound subjects joined by and usually take a plural verb. So let's look at Think A. Think A is asking you to underline each subject one time and to underline the correct verb in parentheses 2 times. All right, just a little hint, you're going to come across a number of compound subjects. Remember, they're always plural. So let's look at number 1 together. The colt and its mother is or are playing in the field. Yes, it would be are because you would need a plural verb to accompany a plural subject. Very good. Look at number 2 with me, please. The girl and her brother knows or know the answer. They know the answer. Excellent. And finally, number 3, before you finish on your own, it says your pen and pencil is or are lying on the floor. Your pen and pencil, they are lying on the floor. Remember, it becomes plural. Excellent. Now we are going to move on to page 236. I want you to look at Think A and B. You are going to be completing this on your own as well. At the very top, it's asking you to write is or are in the blanks provided. So you would read number 1 to yourself. It says the noise of the excited children, blank, deafening. Now, if you go back based on what we've done in the past, you would realize that there's a prepositional phrase in that sentence. So you would eliminate that by crossing it out. So it would become the noise, blank, deafening. The noise is deafening or the noise are deafening. Yes, you would need a singular verb, so the noise is deafening. Very good. And you would continue that exercise. Go ahead and look down to Think B, please. It says you're going to identify the following subjects and verbs as either singular or plural. So number 1 says she was. There's a clue there, it ends in an S. Okay, that is actually singular. So you'd simply write S-I-N-G, period, on that line. And again, you're going to continue that exercise. It should be straightforward. You do have homework tonight, as I mentioned earlier, and you are going to complete Think C and D on page 236. You're also going to finish reading your book report by lesson 155, your book report book, I should say. You should be complete with that by lesson 155. Hopefully you're working diligently on that and you're preparing for your oral report. So Think C, it's asking you to write does or do with the following subjects, and we did practice with that earlier on in the lesson. So you would say you, do, or does. You do. Remember, the pronoun you is always accompanied with a plural verb. All right, and then for write D, you're going to need a separate sheet of notebook paper. You're going to write sentences using the following words. So number 1 is asking you for the plural form of lady. Obviously, it would be ladies. Watch your spelling there. And number 2, you're going to use goes as a verb in the sentence. And finally, for number 3, you're going to ensure that there's a compound subject joined by and. So that should be interesting. I look forward to hearing those sentences in the near future. Have a great day.